Today on r/PettyRevenge. For nearly 2 years I got up to $1.25 a gallon off fuel from my husband's a-hole of an ex-wife. Background: my husband's ex-wife lives about an hour away from us with their kids, and I would drive them to school on the weeks when they stayed with us. The town they live in has a grocery store with a point system where they can be redeemed for fuel, except it doesn't actually sell fuel. Our town has the same grocery store and, being larger, has the fuel pumps in the parking lot. Ex-wife is an awful person who worked really hard to alienate the kids from us. I say worked, because they are older now and able to see what she is doing. She regularly bought all of her groceries at this particular store specifically for the fuel rewards, and would save them up to fill her vehicle in our town when she would make the trip. The rewards card she used had been set up under my husband's old phone number, so I would fuel up, enter the phone number, and drive to my favorite, less expensive, grocery store. It took about 2 years for her to realize she rarely got any sort of discount and for her to stop shopping there. I was a little bummed, but I was no longer making the drive to school, so. For our next story. Breakup satisfaction. My ex-fiancé and I were together for 6 years, engaged for 3 months, and then he broke up with me. I remember crying in disbelief. He looked at me and said, "Look at you. No wonder nobody likes you. No wonder you have no friends." Those words were ringing in my head when my friends and I went back to the apartment to pack my stuff up. Aside from nearly everything being mine, from the silverware to the shower curtain, I really wanted to mess with him. He was a bit of a clothes horse, so I went through his closet and all his favorite shirts. I took a razor blade and frayed the thread on the 3rd or 4th button down. Enough that it would hang on for a wash or two, then pop off. His blue jeans got the same treatment, a seam here, a button there, the crotch frayed to split the next time he bent over. I doubt he ever figured out that it was me, but my girlfriends and I still laugh about it. P.S. That breakup was the best thing that ever happened to me. I've been happily married going on 15 years now with a great kid. Let's dive into our next story. I hope she enjoys the eggs. First, I have a non-visible disability that sometimes acts up. Today I went to a grocery store, parked in a handicapped spot, I have the plates, and grabbed a scooter. When I got out of the car, a lady started yelling insults at me for using a spot I'm not entitled to. And got worse when she saw me take a scooter. Going through the store, she kept coming near me and making nasty remarks. The entire time I ignored her. Finally, I get to the egg section. I needed several dozen, and the 18 counts are on sale. So I am going through them to make sure the packages don't have broken eggs. Since I was blocking access to the door, I helped out others with getting their eggs and making sure they didn't have any that were broken. The packages with broken eggs were stacked up on an empty shelf. She comes up and says, "Are there 18 in there?" as if she never heard of checking the eggs for damage, and demanded I get her 2 packages. So I just grabbed 2 packages off the top of the discard pile and gave them to her. And she put them in her cart and went away. On to the next story. Made my mother-in-law her lunch from rancid lard. I, 26 male, and my fiancé, 28 female, are staying at my mother-in-law's, 57 female, house for a couple of weeks. Little to say that after a couple of days of being her best, she started to make our stay here a living hell. She is always complaining, always angry and criticizing anything we do. We wanted to make her a nice meal the other day. Our hobby is cooking. She already ate that food made by us. Once she was in visit to us and she loved it. We made the exact same food, and she started complaining that it tastes weird, and that she better orders food to herself. Anyways, because she came up with the idea that she's too busy to cook, we should cook the next meal. But only the way she asks us to. I started cooking and she gave very strict orders, micromanaging everything. She clearly has time for that. The funny thing was that she said this is the way a real name of the food is made, but believe me, the stuff she put in it, I never heard anyone cook it like this. At one point she gave me a jar of pig lard and told me that I should put it in the dish to add more fatty taste. When I opened the jar, a very rancid smell hit me. I realized that the lard has gone bad but decided to go with it, and I put it in the meal. Orders are orders. After the food was ready, I quickly told my fiancé, who knew about this and thought that this is a very good revenge, and we went out to eat our lunch in a restaurant. When we came back, my mother-in-law was furious and said that her meal is inedible. What did I put into it? I said absolutely only what she asked me to. She was there to witness. I took a spoonful and it was absolutely disgusting. Then, I used a reverse Uno card and started complaining about the dish she told me to make, that it tastes weird and that I know how to cook better meals. Her face said it all. I hope she won't complain about our cooking anymore. Edit. The food was goulash, if you were wondering. For our next story. You want me to pay for repairs to the HOA roof? You can't handle the HOA roof part. Well over a decade ago I lived under the nasty, petty, vindictive thumb of an HOA. I mean, who hasn't, am I right? I had clashed with the board for years over illegal special assessments and failure to ever enforce rules against board members' friends. My crowning achievement was forcing them to either grant every homeowner full, unfettered, access to all roof patios or limit roof repair expenses only to those units who wrongfully claimed the roof areas were a part of their units. Despite the fact that their deeds did not grant them private rights to roof areas, each homeowner on the top floor had fenced off their roof space and in one instance, built an unpermitted sunroom. Additionally, I reported the sunroom to the city and it had to be removed because no permit, too heavy for roof, causing damage to roof. The same damage that the board wanted everyone to pay for. It was a lot of time and energy just to fight people trying to screw us. Eventually, I was ready to sell my condo. Because I was selling for sale by owner, I did my own marketing. As part of my marketing, I bought the domain of my unit number plus street name and built a website for the unit. While doing so, I noticed the .com/net/org domains for the building's street address were available for purchase. So I snagged those two as well as street number street name ho.com org net. And I sold the place and moved out. 6 months or so later, I received an email from the HOA board president asking if I owned those domains. I replied that I did. She told me they belonged to the property, and now that I didn't live there, I had to turn them over. I told her she needed to replace the HOA's lawyers if they told her that, and the board was welcome to purchase the domains from me for the tidy sum of $5,000. Why $5,000? Because that's the amount they wanted each homeowner to pay in special assessments for the roof repairs needed from the illegal sunroom and fencing. Let's dive into our next story. Try to make me look bad? Nobody will see you. Or why you should not upset the official photographer. This happened a few years ago. I was one of about 5 teachers in a summer camp. One of the teachers was very young, just out of university. As often happens, he thought he was the best. For some reason, he started complaining about me behind my back, never to my face, and making a big deal about miscommunications. At one point, all the teachers had a meeting that I missed because, like most meetings, they are a waste of time, but he kept complaining about me, calling me stupid, etc. I know about this because the other teachers told me. He was the only person that had a problem with me. Again, not a word to my face. Cue my petty revenge. One of my tasks as a hobby photographer was to take pictures so at the end, we could have a slideshow of summer camp moments. It took me hours and hours of extra work, but I photoshopped him out of every single picture. When possible, I just cropped his head out. So there were many pictures with only his leg or an arm in the frame. The only picture where he finally appeared was the official photo with everyone in it. It would be strange if he didn't appear on this picture. So I made him look red as if he was sunburned, made his eyes look bloodshot, and made his teeth look as yellow as canned corn. Nobody ever said anything to me. Most people look for themselves in the pictures, and everyone else found themselves just fine. Edit. Formatted the wall of text. Also, never heard a complaint from anyone about it. The perfect petty revenge. Our last story for today. Petty revenge on my dad and his fiancée. My dad has always been the absent kind of father who never paid much attention to me or mom. Don't get me wrong, he was never abusive, just kind of out there, free thinker, jazz musician by trade, and so on. He decided to divorce mom when I was 18, which would have been okay if he didn't cheat on her multiple times and didn't fail to mention that he had already filed for divorce to my mom. I guess you can imagine that receiving the divorce papers from a random postman one fine morning is not one of my fondest memories. So my parents divorced, mom was devastated, but everyone moved on. Dad married one of the singers he had cheated with prior to the divorce, and we just kind of let it go. A year ago, my dad and his now wife got a child, a small baby boy who I can proudly call my brother. During some of the visits to their house, I noticed that my bro loves anything that makes a lot of noise, using all the toys given to him just to make a ruckus, be it wooden cubes or anything else, and that is when a sinister thought was born in my head. It is his first birthday tomorrow, and I got him a beautiful marching drum. Try not to pay attention to that. Update: so I went to the party, and right from the start it was pure pandemonium with everyone stressed. The baby crying like crazy and dad's wife visibly in distress, because she is a real perfectionist when it comes to homemade meals, with dad, being the impractical artist, not being much of a help. Eventually we sat down to eat, but baby bro was grumpy, basically the whole time. So after we ate, I pulled out the marching drum. Dad and fiancé were visibly upset and probably kind of figuring out the way to tell me that this was not an appropriate purchase, and then, out of nowhere, bro's godmother, singer and pianist, yes, another one, spoke up and said that this is a really good gift, because he likes to bang all his toys anyways. So, even though reluctant at first, Dad took the drum and started playing some simple patterns. Bro stopped crying, hypnotized by the drum beat. Visibly relieved, the wife's mom pulled out her gift, which was a xylophone and some other percussion she had bought. Everyone took one instrument, and we kind of tried playing together, effectively calming my baby bro down and preparing him for the bedtime. I guess I did not expect that it would end in such a wholesome way. And those are all the stories we have for today. See you tomorrow.